Hey guys, Coach Dan here. You know what invention I'm waiting for? Smell-o-vision. The day you can smell through your video, your YouTube, your television, stuff like that. Oh, that's the day. You know why? Because this is the most disgusting thing I've ever smelled in my life. Does anyone else have an issue where their headphones smell like vinegary and disgusting? Anyway, if anyone has any tips on how to clear that up, that'd be great. So we come out of the fire and into the frying pan, as they say. Legs yesterday into a pull or back day today. So this day, I've been fiddling around with some things, but it's time to go back to basics. It's training hard. So we're going to switch out one of the movements I was doing or trying to get right for the last couple of weeks to even a month. I'm going to switch it back in for a classic, the old T-bar row. I've always liked the T-bar row. Haven't been using it for a while just to let it freshen up, and been working through some other exercise variations, but it's back in the game today. So that'll be one of my upper back movements today, and everything else is close to business as usual. See if we can get some little progressions. Feeling good. Still very busy at the moment. So again, got to have the schedule on point. We only have brief periods of time to do some stuff like training. It's got to come up. Once it's locked into the schedule, there's no changing it. That's the priority for that time slot. Nothing takes that time. Even if my wife or daughter were to get hospitalized, we've got priorities to keep in mind. So I'll just tell them, hey, just need to wait a couple of hours so I can get back done, basically. That is a joke, in case anyone is thinking of calling some sort of authority. Yeah. All right. So back coming up, we've got business as usual for the last couple of weeks. If you have seen the back workout, so we've got a nice single arm row variation, a straight arm pull down. This stuff is all same as usual. And then, slotting that T-bar row in there, about exercise 3. So should be good, feeling good. Out of the frying pan. That's not right. Out of the fire, into the frying pan. Here we go. Step back, single arm chest supported row. So instead of using this machine conventionally, I do it standing. Step back, I sort of place my foot on this machine to brace myself. Grab my handle, lock myself into this position, and then pull from this. So I let it stretch all the way out and in. Stretch all the way towards the midline, pull in towards the hip. So I'm trying to make this row variation as much about my lat as possible. When I use this machine, because of the angle of it, kind of takes my arms a little bit away from my body. And my arms being away from my body makes it a little bit more upper back, so we get that squeezing of the shoulder blades. That's not what I'm after for this particular variation. So the step back version works really well for me. So in this position, arm stretches across the body towards the midline, big stretch, open up that lat, pull with the lat in towards the hip. Yeah, so when we're rowing for our lats, we want the arms to be a little bit closer to the body as they start to get a little bit further away from our body, and it's sort of all the way up into this kind of position here. It's not that the lats won't work, it's just that it puts the upper back, traps, rear delts, things like that in a better position to kind of pull your shoulders back essentially, or shoulder blades back. So for me, this feels really good, so I'm going to continue doing it. I had a personal record on it last week, so we'll see if we can up the weight from there. 3 sets, 8 to 15 per side. Bada bing, bada boomski. Alright, so that's the step back single arm chest supported row. So again, I've got that one in my routine because this machine, if I was to do it with my chest on the pad, it has my arm kind of go away from my body like this. And again, doesn't mean the lat doesn't work as well, but if you follow that arm path around, it then becomes more about your arm sort of abducting away from your body horizontally, which allows sort of upper back rear delts to kind of get into the game. So I'll do this one also at different times with both arms for the upper back. But here, we want it to be a lat dominant row. So keeping it close to the body works well. For this one, we can step to the side and kind of line it up so I finish nice and close to my body, making it really latty. I did 3 sets there, 10 to 15. So I did 2 heavier sets. The reps started to drop up, so made it lighter for the 3rd set. Still good, hit a PR last week. Reps dropped off this week, but still feels really good, so no reason to change now. Okay, let's go. One more lat dominant exercise, the Lat Prayer. So next up, we've got this Lat Prayer variation. So for this Lat Prayer variation, I've got a bench here, got the functional trainer or the small cable crossover, and this bar that connects between the two. So if you've previously done lat prayers where there's a cable machine in front of you, you pull down like such, completely fine. If you've done them on a bench like this or with a single cable over your head, also good. The reason I've chosen this variation is because I can set this at a height that makes it hard at the beginning. If I were to do this with a single cable machine, the cable would come and smack me in the face. Here, because we've got the cables out to the side, the bar can come smoothly down through whatever range I want. I've got the bench for stability, I like that. Some of the downsides is it takes a little bit of setup and getting into position, like shuffling the bench to kind of find that position. But once you've got the position, you know your hand position, it's smooth enough to get into position. So I've got a couple of rings here that I've got as markers. I'm setting my middle finger on, get my support, dragging like that in a standard Lat Prayer way. Big stretch at the top, pull down with the lats. So there's different machines where we've got kind of pullover machines. We don't have one here, so this is the go for me for the time being. And again, of all the Lat Prayer variations, this has been my favorite so far, so stick with it. We'll get into our first working set here in a brief moment. Okay, 2 sets seated lat prayer done. Feels pretty good. Some considerations for lat prayers in general is that the tricep can work. The long head of the tricep particularly is helping with that movement of shoulder extension, so pulling shoulder down like this. That's one of the lat's main movements as well. And even your pec can help pull your arm back into that position. So there's a couple of considerations to keep in mind. To avoid that, I go a little soft elbow bend
and kind of come into that kind of path there. So see if we can't let the tricep chill out as much as possible. And again, not the worst thing in the world that those muscles work, but just a consideration as far as programming goes. Like, if that affects your next chest or tricep workout significantly, maybe there's some considerations to be had there. So, which might become the case, but I quite like it. Feels good so far. So, a bit of progress from last week as well, which is nice. All right, T-bar row next. All right, next up, T-bar row. Tell you what, this is an interesting feeling, having this fluffy thing ticky on the chin. That's an experience to be had. All right, T-bar row. So a couple of considerations for the T-bar rows. Hand position. Both are going to do a good job for me. I know in times gone by, I use this top one. So it's overhand, kind of, I don't know what you call that angle, 90 degrees from the weight, whatever you want to call that, but there's also like a 45-degree one. Top one, I know for me in times gone by has been suitable. The other thing I do a little bit differently is, instead of putting my feet on the machine, because when I go into that I get a lot of like pressure on my chest, becomes hard to breathe, so call me a wuss, whatever you want to do, but I'll essentially stand on the frame of the machine, kind of taking a little bit of that pressure away so I can focus on the movement. Or if you're taller than me, you could stand on the ground. So we're here, standing on. Grab your overhand grip, find a width and a hand position that feels good for you. Allow the chest pad to roll your shoulders forward, stretch out the traps, pull and squeeze. So in this one, you can do a little bit of like spinal erection. So we can do both the shoulder blades coming this way. So protraction of the shoulder blades, retraction, and even a little bit of spinal flexion, or making your spine go up like that to work some of those erectors can be fine. I know what I've done weight-wise on here before because I've logged it. So I'm going to get somewhere around that and kind of see what my strength is today for this movement. So we've subbed this in today for one of the other upper back movements that I was stuffing around with, and I just couldn't find a good setup. So this is a classic for me. Just haven't used it in my program for a little while because I just used it for ages. Kind of got a bit stale, didn't feel as effective. Take it out for a little while, she's back in. Classic. All right, give me one more set to feel it out, see what weight I'll be lifting today. Good to be back with the T-bar row. So some considerations I learned after set one. If we're too far off the top of the pad, essentially what will happen is your spine will flex, and then it'll be pretty hard on your spinal erectors, which are the muscles that erect your spine. So if I go too far this way, my back goes like that and rounds out and then goes like that. Now if I shuffle down, we get more of that. The pad blocks me. My shoulder blades essentially stretch or protract because of that. And then I'm able to pull and use my upper back a little bit better. So at the beginning I mentioned it can be a little bit of that spinal erection, but what I found with being quite high on the first set is that those erectors got quite tight. This mostly is about upper back, so get this on your chest, let the shoulders round around the pad, and then squeeze at the back. Okay, one more upper back, and then some of our isolation stuff. Okay, next up, we've got a seated row. We're trying to bias this seated row more towards the upper back. So again, I've got this slightly wider handle. This is this, whatever you want to call this grip, Mag was the initial brand that this was. For here, I want to row high. Arms will come away from our body, and just like we were saying before, arms come away from the body, and now they're kind of rotating around in that kind of direction versus close to the body. If we wanted this lat to be about if we wanted this row to be about the lat, we take a narrow grip, single arm in here, keep the arms by the side. Here, we want to, again, arms a little bit further away, let the shoulder blades protract, squeeze at the back. So we're here, lock the legs in, protract, pull and retract or squeeze. So it's this kind of motion where the shoulder blades roll forward and roll back. That's going to allow the upper back to work really well here. Arms a little bit further away from the body. All right, 2 sets here. What you can see from that side on angle is that's what I'm attempting to do, to kind of lock in a position, let the shoulder blades protract or round forward, stretches out the upper part of the back, the traps, rear delts, all that kind of stuff, and then squeeze from there. Now what do I finish off at the end there? It's just some partial reps at the top half, or this first half, just because your strength kind of fails in here way before it fails in there. So potentially if I just pull up the set after, okay, can't get to my belly anymore, just stop. It's not that I'm completely close to failure or fatigue, it's just I can't get all the way anymore. So half reps, you might then set a new standard of range of motion. So what I'll plan to do with this one, as many as I can to the belly, count that down in my program, and then just go partials on top of that, just to make sure I get that actually working, actually getting those muscles close to failure, because you can still get sometimes in some movements that resistance or the strength curve that we have, it makes it that we can get it all the way in here but not here. So a couple of lengthened partials to finish there, works pretty well. All right, back done. Got biceps coming up now. Yo little ripper. Onto some biceps now. So this is a decline lying dumbbell bicep curl. So this particular variation allows for a couple of things. Firstly, it allows, when I get into this decline position, my arm to come behind the level of the body and therefore stretch my bicep out a little bit. What it also means is that in that stretched position, it's quite hard because the gravity is pushing the dumbbell down always, and I'm having to work hard immediately in that movement. So if you've ever seen this done on an incline bench leaning back, that gets the stretch through the bicep, but it doesn't quite make it as hard. So gravity is always going down, so free weight things are always coming down, and even if my joint is rotating, it doesn't matter, gravity's going straight down. So the importance of this seems to be worth the effort it takes to get into a bench like this. This is a decline bench that's meant for bench pressing, but you also get just abdominal benches that are just kind of set like this. Either will be fine, and even laying, I initially started this movement laying, so both can be good. But what you'll do, kind of get your dumbbell, strap in, hook in, lay back with it. I like to pinch my elbows to the bench to create a bit of stability, and then we're there. When you're done, simply place them on the ground, sit up out of there, and then you're ready to go. So tough thing about this one is I am about to go up in weight, and the only weight that our dumbbells jump up are in a 2.5, so it's going to be a doozy of a jump, but I'll at least get a set with the bigger ones, see how I go, and then maybe have to drop it down to these anyway. All right, this, if available, supersetted with some rear delt work in uno momento. Capping off the bicep work with some lying cable curls. So to the naked eye, I was lying down before, lying down here, it's kind of like doing the same thing, but the main difference is you'll see when I start this movement, my arms are in line with my body. When we're on that decline curl, they're behind the level of the body. So we get larger stretch. But again, this exercise I've quite liked, still has value. I use the curl bar, so it's a bar with a little kink in it. Take a narrow handle, lie down with it. So, lying down keeps me stable. I set this as low as possible without smashing into my junk on the way up. Do this for a slightly higher rep range and slightly lighter, and just a couple of sets to get some extra bicep volume in. So, 2 sets here, 10 to 20 reps, and we're out. Okay, that's a wrap on the pull workout, guys. So what you didn't see there towards the end was the supersets between the decline bicep curl and the rear delt fly. Someone wanted to jump in on the cable machine, and that is probably one of the downside of supersets in a commercial gym. Just want to have good gym etiquette and not discourage anyone from doing anything or intimidate anyone. So just kind of worked in with them. And then, yeah, lying cable curl to finish. That was pretty good, all pretty sweet. So something noteworthy about this workout was the T-bar row is in for one of those pull down variations for the upper back that I was doing. I like it, but it's just couldn't really get into position correctly. The weight kept pulling me out of position. It's not what the machine is intended for, so I do that a little bit. But yeah, that one, probably never going to be able to train very hard on that one. So for the time being, that's in the garbage. The other thing to keep in mind is, that decline bicep curl. If you haven't done anything where you're curling with your arm behind your body, definitely worth giving a try. It doesn't make the standard dumbbell curl redundant. It just gives you another variation. Give it a try. Even if it's not on the decline, if it's lying down and doing the same thing, that can be really sweet. Again, we get that big stretch through the bicep, and we're just making it a bit harder in that stretched position. So variations of that can be good. I'm currently doing the decline lying. It smashes my biceps. Did a heavy set because I have gotten to the top of my rep range with a particular weight, and then sort of dropped away as we went on. So I only did one heavy set and then had to go back to the weight I was working last week. But that might have to be how it is for a period of time, because the dumbbell weight jumps are quite large, right? So all in all, pretty good. We march on, stay busy, stay on plan, and just keep rocking it out, right? And remember, as always, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan, signing off.